Well, good evening, everyone. Happy holidays. I'd like to welcome you to the December edition of Monday Night Magic with your favorite Epigenetic Geeks, my dear friend Ken Close, and myself, Lori Falk, as we're here this evening to chat with you about yet another aspect of epigenetics. This time it's the emotions and the addictions that we have to the chemicals that are part and parcel of those emotions within our body.
Mm.
What do you think about that, Ken?
Wow, I mean, sometimes the word addiction gets all under our feathers and ruffles things up a bit because, we've heard of addictions. Maybe we've had some in our past, some conditions that, we had to overcome. And then what you mentioned right there, the chemicals of the addiction. Now we're talking about, now are we refining it to some some drug addiction or something like that? But I want you guys to understand that the chemistry of emotions is just as addictive as the chemistry of a drug, a very addictive drug. Because we as a body, first of all, we as a mind or consciousness kind of sometimes forget about the body. And we just look at the whole organism as just, that's who I am. And the truth of the matter is that the whole side of you that is your personality, and people can have a magnetic personality. Some people can have a soft personality, a hard personality, all the different personalities that are out there. We just chalk it up as that's who we are. But the personality, to be honest with you guys, is actually a chemistry. There's a chemical you, a body you, that the personality has been chemically rehearsed via emotions, via belief systems, assigning meaning to experiences. All of that has created the personality of you. And it really, this personality, as it's looking out through your senses, it's determining your personal reality. Everything out there that you see, that you smell, that you touch, that you taste, everything outside of you looking out there is a creation, a personal reality. So Lori and I, we had this great conversation earlier in the green room about some of the sensory feelings, right? And we're going to get to something tonight. I want to share with you guys an experience, and we're going to talk about this as we go through, but we're going to share an experience towards the end of the call. And these sensory perceptions, AKA emotions, we talked about this earlier, that we get so used to having them that you really don't differentiate. You don't separate this emotion from just being you, right? Like, how many of you guys know what it feels like to feel love? Anybody? How about, do you know what it feels like to feel anger, right? Quite the contrast there. However, if I was to try to say that I knew exactly what it felt like in your skin, what love was like, it'd be totally off. There's no way that I could say that's true, right? Because your perception of love, your perception of anger, or any other emotional response is a meaning assigned from past experiences. Past experiences. Now, here's the fun part. If any of those past experiences were unserving or incomplete, we can rewire those. We can change all that. But because we believe in it so strongly, it's essentially a creation within us that's a personality trait, and it becomes addictive. Let me put it this way. If I was to say, I want all of you to surrender everything you know, and right now, and if I could give you a little box, and all you had to do was look into the little box, and everything you knew would dump into that box. Would you do it? Would you do it? Probably not, because how many of you guys have invested in education, or you've got amazing experiences in your life, right? If I gave you that box, you'd have to dump all of that into the box and you'd have a clean slate. Now, in some cases that might be awesome because, you know, if our life is full of trauma or we're in a very low point in our lives, it might be something worthwhile. But I would bargain that none of you would want to do that without maybe some guarantees, right? Or a little bit of assurance that I would have some semblance of myself. As Lori and I were talking today, when it's time to release some emotional baggage or let go of a traumatic experience, then it literally is a biological, psychological, emotional, spiritual, and physical death of that old self. And until we're willing to go that far, dump it in the box, then we really will not create a new personality, right? This is the rewiring structure. This is the addiction to emotions that I'm talking about. Because if you were willing, or if you were to say, I'm not addicted to an emotion, then I would ask you this question. And this is something you guys can practice over the week or next couple of days. What is the first thought you have as you awake in the morning? I want you to actually contemplate on this. I want you to write this down and actually make this an exercise for yourself. What is the first thought or the first feeling or the first awareness that I have in the morning as I move from the transitional state of theta, full sleep, into the beta, the analytical self? What is the first thing that pops in? All right. And the reason I'm asking that is because that's probably one of our strongest addictions right there. It's the thing that when we look at ourselves in the mirror or remember who we are first thing in the morning, it's what we attach to. It's the personality. It's the personal reality that gives us comfort. We feel good about ourselves because we can be familiar with the self that we know, even if it's in suffering, because we're comfortable with this known. And as I said before, when you want to release this known that's uncomfortable, the workbook, very top line of the workbook says to surrender the self. Surrender the self. And that's a process of letting go, looking into the box and dumping that self in there so that you can rebuild. So as Lori said, this chemistry, emotions are chemical. When we have a thought, it doesn't matter what it is. How many of you guys got all your Christmas cards done? Anybody? I don't. So when I think about it, I have a thought, it generates something in my body. Like I'm not done, right? And however I assign meaning to the things that are not done in my life is the chemistry that goes from the brain into the body. So the body feels it. And if it's anxiousness, if it's like unworthiness, if it's just downright abuse, right? Whatever it is, that's what the body has to feel. And you've heard me say this before, because the thought is to the brain, which is the brain's the organ, as emotion is to the body, and the body is the device. And the two enrich the experience of life. You need them both. Agreed? You need them both, right? Otherwise, I did this post not too long ago on social media. I said, why not just have a thought with nothing else? Why have all the attachments of emotion and feeling and all the stuff that goes along with that? the truth of it is that it'd be a pretty, I don't know, boring life. I think it would be a very incomplete life where we're just going around being a thinking being, because then there's no going from thinking to being, right? We'd just be a thinker, not a human being. We'd be a human thinker.
Right. And we're sentient beings. So as sentient beings, the emotional piece of it is so important. So are you guys following this, why emotions are addictive? Because every time you have that thought, it sets off an emotion. The emotion sets off a chemical reaction. So just like putting a illegal drug into your body that sets off a chemical reaction, just like having a drink of alcohol sets off a chemical reaction. Those thoughts become emotions, and the emotions become chemicals, and the piece you become addicted to is that chemical reaction. So it gets us into a loop.
A familiar loop. A familiar loop, right?
A very familiar loop. And to understand the addictive cycle is to understand that something happens at point A and it triggers us to go to point B. So there's a neural pathway between, okay, this happened, I got anxious, I'm going to reach for a drink. So when you're working in AA or groups like that, and you're trying to eliminate and create a new neural pathway, so when the trigger happens, instead of going to point B, we go to point C. And then we get excited because now we've created that new neural pathway. Oops, here's what they forgot to tell you. Point B is still there. And that's the old familiar pattern. So it takes a lot to go from point A to point C over and over and over again, because the tendency is to want to go back to B. Does that make sense?
100%. The hack, the biohack that we can invoke is that we create, let's say we're addicted to some behavior. Now, how do you know you're even addicted to anything? Why would we even use that word? Because like I said, if the first thought you have in the morning, or the first rehearsal that you have in the morning, or let's even go this way, the more common rehearsal. How many of you guys, well, nobody here, but you may know somebody that when something bad happens, they think it's their fault. They go right to the, oh, I did it. It's my fault. I'll take responsibility for it, right? And probably none of you guys, but maybe you know somebody that's like that. Or another way that something happens and the first thing they do is get mad, because anger is a very strong, forceful, addictive emotion that allows us to hide, right? We can get mad and everybody runs, right? You know anybody like that? You know, they get mad and it's like, oh, don't make them mad. We're out of here, right? So that's another way. It's a coping mechanism. And so these are these default mechanisms. And we can also look at people. I tell you, view of others is 20/20. We have such a crystal clear view of others, but view of self is blind as a bat, right? We can see the problem. Oh, I see what's going on with you, right? Anybody know that, right? I know what's going on with you. And so you see these personality types, like that person is just a angry personality type, right? Or that person has this other type. Or you see them out there, that's a joyful personality. That person's always smiling. They got these wrinkles that just are always built in from the smile, right? That's a cool personality type as well. Sometimes those personalities are hiding other things. However, that's you can see them. My point is, you can see these personality types. Now, the work here is to see our own. And this is an exercise that I want you guys to practice in finding out what is your personality type. And these are going to be the things that you fall back on. So just pay attention. It's normally during a traumatic experience. Now, I don't mean like a huge traumatic experience, such as a death or an accident or a disease, something like that, but something small, like you're cut off in traffic, right? Or Perhaps that somebody takes the last thing on the shelf that you were going for, right? How do you respond? What's your go-to internal? You may not show it outside. You may be gracious and say, oh, okay, yeah, go ahead, go ahead. But what happens inside? I want you to pay attention to that, because the internal response, irregardless of how outwardly we present it, it's the internal response that is the emotion of addiction, or I should say, standard rehearsal. It's the normal one. Like Lori said, you get a thought. There is a very pronounced synaptic connection group. It's called the default neural network. Okay, there's a bunch of neurological connections in your brain that over your lifetime, experiences have happened in your life, and you have assigned meaning to them. And almost at certain points in our lives, usually around the age of 35, after that, these neurological bundles, these neural networks, default neural networks, become our personality type, our traits, how we act, how we behave, what we believe, all the things about us. So that's our definition. And not all of them are going to be serving us well. Some of them are coping mechanisms that we learned because of the experience we had was devastating, traumatic, unserving. It hurt, right? And so we built a model around this hurt to help us to navigate our lives. There's an amazing book that I'll recommend. It's by Michael Singer, called The Untethered Soul. And in that book, he talks about the mind's, or I should say the personality's behavior around building protective mechanisms around a thorn. He uses a story and an analogy of someone like having a thorn in their body. And instead of extracting the thorn, they build protective mechanisms around it so nobody can touch it. So as long as nobody touches it, it doesn't hurt, right? But the moment that someone touches it, AKA like a trigger within you. So somebody says something familiar that caused your trauma, a smell familiar that created your suffering, a visual reference that was the onset to all of the struggle you have now. All of those are triggers. And they will start an internal dialogue in the brain that goes through that neural network I told you about, that produces a peptide. A peptide is a signaling mechanism that goes into the body and triggers a chemical response. Now, the chemical response does many things. As Lori said, it's a chemistry, right? We are this amazing chemistry set. But the chemicals are designed to turn on certain areas of our body. Most of the time, the adrenal function, right? Because we need to get into that fight or flight mode. But I want you to do, like I mentioned, when you start to pay attention to the first thought of the day, or the default emotion you go to when somebody does something against you or triggers you. The other thing I want you to do, the third part, is to feel it. Where in your body? Find the place in your body that you feel this, right? When you're triggered and you have an emotional response, this default, where is it? Right? Lately, I have been feeling triggered and things in my throat chakra, right? In my fifth center, which is because in my life, I do a lot of presenting. So if there's a trigger and I'm tripping up on my words or whatever, it's like, boom, right there, right? And it's this restriction, and my voice might even alter because nerves are coming up. All of a sudden I might get lost in the content or whatever. And it turns this center, it restricts it. It actually turns it into a bottleneck, and it just amplifies the problem. So that's one of the pieces I want you guys to pay attention to, where in the body it's happening. Does that make sense, Lori? Anything you want to add to that?
It does make sense. And I'm wondering, do you all understand why it's so important to know what those emotions are and those thoughts are that you're starting the day with? because you're becoming a vibrational match to that emotion. And that's the energy you're emitting out into the world. So as you're emitting that energy out as you start your day, guess what you're attracting back? More of the same, more of the same. And let's just take a look right now at this map of consciousness that has lots of emotions on it. And look at the ones below the red line. Feeling miserable, hopeless, tragic, disdainful, disappointed, demanding, having pride, anger. All that stuff is vibrating below the level of 200. So it's a lower vibrational frequency. And the only thing you're going to attract, if you're at the level of apathy, which is a level of 50, you're only going to be attracting things at the level of despair. You're not going to be attracting even at the level of forgiveness and acceptance. It's all that simple. I mean, you probably heard me say it before. The law of attraction is in action 24/7. It's just like the law of gravity. You're not jumping off a 5-story building without a safety net. You're not jumping out of a plane without a parachute because you understand the law of gravity. Well, you need to understand the law of attraction at that same level. That's not to say that we're not going to go through our emotional processes, because we're sentient beings, but you need to harness it. How about that? I mean, right? We put a harness on a horse, we train him, we make that horse something we can ride, and that animal, that huge, amazing animal, becomes our friend, but not left untethered. So you've got to get a handle on your emotions. So if you want to be attracting at the level of love and joy, those are 500, 540, those are really high vibrations. You can do it. You can talk yourself into it. You can meditate your way there. There's all kinds of things that you can do, but it starts with being consciously aware. Starts with being consciously aware and then consciously choosing to shift it. Now, I don't know how many of you watched The Golden Bachelor. This is probably not a big Golden Bachelor group. And this is the first reality TV show I've ever watched. And I watched it because my sister and I had a thing going. She actually wanted me to apply to be on the show. So I needed to be able to watch it and understand and explain to her why that was never happening in my life. And I got to tell you something. Because I'm a coach, I look at the world through a different lens than the average people or average person. I probably knew by episode 3 who he was going to pick. And I understood it because I understood vibration. I understood patterns of psychology. So it gets down to 2 people. There's 2 people left, and they go on their, I forget the names of this stuff because like I said, it's not really my thing, but they go on their dream vacation thing and the special suites, and that's their chance to actually spend an entire night together. So here we are, the week before he's going to get engaged, and he sleeps with one woman one night and the other woman the next night. Now, at that point, I'm like, there's no way the one was going to win. And even though they had a strong connection, so the one that came in second, can't remember their names, forgive me, because that's really I wasn't that into it. But she had been dumped by several guys, and she kept going back to that in her conversations, not necessarily with him, but behind the scenes when they'd be interviewing her. She was vibrating in the level of being abandoned, of being pushed to the wayside. She was not vibrating in the energy of attraction. The one had been married for 45 years, just like he had been. They had both lost spouses. They had gone through similar things. They were an identical vibrational match. So even though he found the other one more exciting, more interesting, like he just was enthralled by how adventuresome she was, that was part of the new him, but he went right for that old patterning. So depending on the vibrational match you're at is going to depend upon what you're going to attract. So the one that was at his vibration is going to get married on TV on January 4th. How about that? Don't hold me to that date. It's somewhere in there. So I mean, it's crystal clear and obvious. And that's why we're really emphasizing how important it is that you be aware of your thoughts and aware of your emotions, because that's your attractor factor. That's what you're putting out to the world.
So let's break that down. If like I said earlier, thoughts are to the brain as emotion is to the body, and thoughts move energy through synaptic connections, right? It's like the wiring circuitry in your brain. Same thing with your nervous system. Same thing with the nervous system. Your heart also has a ton of synaptic connections in it. So when you have a thought, electron flow goes through these synaptic connections, and that is electric. All right. So the thought is electric. And then when it creates this chemistry in the body, and the body is this grouping of cell structures, systems, organs, it produces a magnetic signal, right? It's like you're like a walking, talking antenna, and you send out these magnetic frequencies, these signals. So the thought generates the emotion sends the magnetic wave out, which is the transmitter Lori's talking about, right? This is the attractor factor that she's talking about. So whatever you're feeling is the magnetic energy that the world is receiving, and therefore what you're drawing. Now, you've heard before that opposites attract, right? Well, in the laws of physics, like energies attract. That's the laws of physics, okay? Negative energies typically, will, when you're looking at a magnetic frequency around you, there's the torus field of the magnetic energy that flows around you. It's in a curve, right? It curves around your body. And you saw on that chart, the power and force. So the power is at the higher frequency emotions, force down there at the lower frequencies, because force means that in order to have force, there must be resistance. This is the law of physics, everyone. In order for there to be force, there has to be some resistance against it. And so when your body is naturally a healer and it wants to naturally stay in balance, but you're forcing it by having a lower frequency vibration. I call those, like below that red line, I call those the below the belt. Right? That's down there in the first energy center. That's the below the belt emotions. And so you're forcing the body out of balance. And that's a consumer. In other words, it consumes energy to a huge, huge amount, or a huge factor. So the power in your body, in your whole expressive self, is lowered. So in other words, on the other side, where you see strong and weak, because you are emitting a lot of energy just to maintain the force of those lower frequency of emotions, you feel weak, right? How many of you guys have been in a depression, a poor state? You felt miserable for some reason. You were disappointed about something, and did you feel energetic? Did you feel like you were ready to go out and run a marathon? Or let's say that you had huge regret, and or you blame yourself for some things going on in your life, whatever it was. Typically, you're in this withdrawal kind of feeling. You don't feel very strong, do you? This is why. Is because right now your body's consuming a tremendous amount of energy just to maintain the vital functions. So every circadian rhythm, sun comes up, sun goes down, every circadian rhythm, we have a finite amount of energy, right? Our bodies have a finite amount. Let's just say you have a pail of water, right? And it's full in the morning, and all day long, a little bit comes out. right? Some of it's used for this part of the body, and some of it's used for this emotional conditioning, and some of it's used for this action. A little bit comes out all day long. Now, at the end of the day, your pail is empty, right? No matter what, it's full in the morning, it's empty at the end of the day. Now, what you do with that energy in the middle is determining whether your body is in the healing process or in the disease process. Irregardless, you're going to use up that energy. All right. So the energy is either being consumed by worry, frustration, fear, and below the belt emotions, or the energy is being consumed by repair, recovery, and growth. Right. So in other words, it's either the energy is either being dedicated to the body's cellular structures to enhance them, to build them, to grow them and improve them, or that energy is being held hostage over here with managing emotions. You follow me? The pail's going to wind up empty anyway. In one scenario, your body thrives. In the other, it dies. Okay? Simple equation. So with that understanding, what are you going to use your pail's content for? What are you going to do with it? What are you going to do with it? This is the key. When it comes to the magnetic transmission of the body, again, this is going to pull in like energies to feed your perception or the electrical pulses of the thought, and the meaning you've assigned to the experiences, because it's going to draw in experiences so that you can see the evidence of the feeling you're transmitting. Does that make sense? This is validation. There's an amazing synergy in our universe. And this synergy, everything happens, everything permeates, operates, and moves within a magnetic field. Everything, the entire universe, right? All the way down to the smallest of small, all the way up to the largest of solar systems. What keeps them together is a magnetic balance. So when you have a lower frequency magnetic transmission, aka the body's feeling fear, then it's looking outwardly for an answer, right? Something to balance it out, and it tracks in, and you wind up with evidence in your life. Now, the other side of that is manifestation, because that's manifestation too, by the way, folks. It's manifestation. But when we create an intention, and Lori's going to talk about that, when we create an intention, it's words that in our mind, we can create a dialogue, and that has meaning that we assign to it because we speak English. Maybe we've written it in English, and those words have meaning to us. So now we speak that out. That's an intention. Remember, it creates thoughts. So you're going to have judgments about it. You're going to have opinions about it. That's okay. You know, we want to try to have good opinions and good judgments, good feelings, because that's going to then send the chemistry, aka peptides, into the body so that we have a feeling. And that feeling is the secret. How many of you guys familiar with the book, Feeling is the Secret? Oh my gosh. It's like, I mean, if you listen to it on audio, it's like 42 minutes. It's very small. And so Feeling is the Secret really gives you a clear picture of that magnetic signal, what feelings are actually creating, you know, the signal that goes out, and you attract that back. I did a 30-day challenge for myself to listen to that audiobook every day for 30 days. Feeling is a Secret every day for 30 days. And I did that for 30 days. I'm telling you, it shifted so much because it imprinted into me a new understanding and rehearsed it over and over again. Every time you hear something over and over again, you're building a memory, right? And that memory is essentially how we validate anything in the present moment. In this present moment, if I said, hey, I want you guys to recall a Christmas tree. Now, you can see in Lori's background, there's a Christmas tree there. So there's something to refer to, but you probably have another picture of a Christmas tree in your mind. That's a memory. You bring it forward. You might even be able to smell it. You might even be able to, see the twinkly lights and define all the components to it, even the emotions that you get around a Christmas tree. So all of that is built into the memory. And so same thing with an addicted emotion. When we have a memory about something, it creates this chemistry in the body, and the body feeds the mind essentially the experience of that. And the body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind or an experience you're having in a three-dimensional space. The body just says, what do I do, mind? Hey, what do I do, mind? And it's waiting for the chemicals, the signatures, the messengers to come from the brain to have a response. It doesn't do it by itself. As Lori and I were talking earlier, I'm sure everyone here has had a dream before. When you go to sleep, you have dreams, yes. And some of them are pretty wild, I bet. I've had some wild dreams. I was just telling Lori that night before last, I was rebuilding a transmission all night. Like, what?
Oh, so boring. You're so boring.
Right. I'm an engineer. And some amazing stuff comes to me, but I'm doing this intricate creation of this transmission. I could see every small tooth in every gear. I was like, it was so huge and so amazing. And I was the narrator and the doer at the same time. You know how that is. You're in your dream, you're all pieces at the same time. And so I'm doing this process, and I wake up. I get a tap on the shoulder. I get a tap on the shoulder by the divine occasionally in my sleep. And those are times in which I'm asked to pay attention, to become aware. And I'm going to give you a little different philosophy on dreams. Most people look at the content as assigning the meaning of what they're trying to tell or convey. But the truth is when you're asleep, the mind is out of the way. And your body does most of its healing between about midnight and 2 a.m., wherever your circadian rhythm is, because that's when you're probably in the deepest sleep and the mind is out of the way. And when the mind is out of the way, and you might have heard me say this before, that 97% of the genetic code that's writing every cell in your body is adaptive, reading the environment. And the external environment of the cell is the internal environment of the body. And when you have a thought creating a feeling in the body, that's the exterior environment of the cell. And that 97% of the genetic code gets written with that feeling, with that emotion. It gets written in there. Now, when you're asleep, guess what? The mind is out of the way. There is no mind creating emotion. There is just the divine creation of cell structures. So not only that 3% of the genetic code that says it's going to be a bone or a muscle or a skin cell, but the other 97% that's adaptive is also being guided by the divine. There's no mind in the way. That's why it's healing. Between that time, that's why you get the mother load of your healing, because Ken's out of the way and the entire cell structure can go, woohoo, divine, what do I do? And there is an intelligence. I'm telling you guys, there is a divine intelligence that creates every cell in your body. And if you don't believe me, just stop cell division right now. Just tell it to stop. Or just tell it to stop. Body, stop digesting food. Just quit. Or here's another one. Stop thinking. Just go ahead. Just stop. Now that's doable, though, I wanted to say. But the point is that there is a divine intelligence that is on our side creating us. So when we go to sleep, that whole system gets hacked a little bit. And our dreams is the body's way of communicating with you, because they stimulate an emotion. And what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at dreams a little bit different. Not the content, but what are the feelings it's generating? What emotion is being generated by the dream? What feeling? I've woken up crying before because I was having a dream, right? I've woken up laughing. I've woke up scared because I felt like I was falling or something's happening. So the emotion is the key. That's your body trying to tell you something. And if you want to know what emotions you're addicted to, that's the fourth step. Pay attention to your dreams. Your body's trying to tell you something. And it's those emotions that you need to work on clearing. Because remember what I said, we're either healing or we're dying. And energy is going to be used up in that pail in one way or another. And if it's being used up for management and not healing, then guess what the body's doing? It's consuming energy, it's losing power, and it's not healing. So bottom line, folks, is that we need to pay attention to what we're addicted to emotionally. We need to find our power in the observation and to tune in to ways to shift that. And we're going to talk a little bit about how to shift that. I'm going to give you a little practice. And what I want you to do is I want you to right now, just for a moment, everybody, I want you to either write down or bring to your mind something you love, something that you just can attach to that generates the feeling of love in your heart.
Could be your puppy, your fur babies, the work you get to do in the world. Could be that Ken is vibrating at such a high vibration that he's frozen right in the middle of a sentence. So we're going to think about something that we love. And while we're waiting for Ken to get unfrozen, I'm also wanting to share with you one of the most valuable tools that you have is right here. There's a lot of ways to clear emotions, but okay, you know where I'm going with this, right? Because I don't talk Healy without talking the Healy coaching module. But the fact of the matter is that you want to know what's keeping you from joy. You want to know what's keeping you from those higher vibrational emotions. Write an intention that you're in that state. And then put it into your Healy coaching module. And it's going to pull up all the subconscious blocks, limiting beliefs, negative programming that have been embedded in your subconscious that are preventing you from achieving that level of joy. And it's not only finding it and bringing it into your conscious awareness, it's telling you if it's karmic, if it's a life pattern, it's telling you whether or not it's coming from your ancestors, your parents, your grandparents. I mean, that's really valuable information because the way the world was during their eras is not the way the world is today. So what the thoughts and beliefs that might have been serving them are certainly not serving you. So I encourage you to do this, to run it, and to continue to run it every day. I've been running that coaching module every day probably since it came out, what, 2.5 years ago? I can't remember. And I was sharing with Ken that when I decorated my tree this year, usually when I'm putting up the ornaments, I'm all emotional about that was from this person, that was from this person. And then it brings up all the things that revolved around that relationship, or that person's no longer in my life, or we parted ways, or whatever it is, because there's a lot of ornaments on that tree that have been with me for decades. And this time, I just enjoyed the beauty of it. But I have cleared a lot with this, a lot. Welcome back, Ken.
Love it. Hey, you know what? I started to talk to you guys about bringing something love into your heart, and it must have sucked the entire world's internet strength right out of the right.
I did. I said Ken's vibrating at such a high love vibration that he's froze.
I took all of the energy for the Wi-Fi, and it just like I re-scrambled it into the love frequency. Awesome. But yeah, you know, to reiterate about the Healy is remember that when you're trying to pull something in as far as love, remember we have the heart chakra program. Huge benefit when we're looking at trying to feel something, we can energize that center and really amplify the signal. So should I go on with what we were talking about on the love?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
We want to get in touch with that feeling of love, unconditional love, not just a little bit of love, unconditional love.
Unconditional love. So whatever it is that you feel love for, not if it's a rainy day, not if it's a sunny day, but it's an unconditional love that you can resonate with. So this is what I want you guys to just try to write down, bring into your awareness. And we're going to do a little exercise, what I call the heart circle. Okay. Lori and I did it earlier today. It was super powerful. I've done it many times with many folks. And the idea is that we are going to do a slight little short meditation. Okay. So I'm going to invite everyone to find a comfortable spot. If you are not quite comfortable, go ahead and adjust and get yourself into a comfortable spot. I want you to, I'm going to place my hands palm up. I want you to place your hands in your lap, either palm down as if you're placing them on top of mine. Okay. Palm down either on your lap or on the table or somewhere comfortable. So we're just going to we're going to create a little heart circle. Now I'm going to invite you to close your eyes, find the comfort inside of you. Here we go. Okay. So let's all take a nice, deep cleansing breath, just in through the nose, deep, and exhale out. And I want you to find your own breath, your own rhythm. Go ahead and continue breathing deeply in, exhale out. And as you breathe, start to move that breath right through your heart. Breathing in through the heart deeply and out through the heart. Relaxing your body, finding that space of peace, comfort, relaxation. Continue to breathe in through your heart. Exhale all the way out. And on your next breath, a little deeper, a little further this time. Hold it for just a little, and then relax it out. Let your shoulders fall. Drop your shoulders. Relax. Very good. Continue to breath. As you're breathing in and out through your heart, I want you to remember that love we talked about earlier, that friend, that pet, that loved one, that experience, that flavor, that sound, that amazing unconditional love that we talked about earlier. Now bring that into your heart. Breathe through it, in and out, staying relaxed. Now I invite you to bring that person, or pet, or thing right into your heart. Open your heart, invite it in. You're safe. We're in our heart circle. We're together, comfortable, safe, and open. Pull it into your heart. Breathe and feel. Breathe and feel. Let that energy flow in and out. A circle might start to flow in through your right, out through your left. In through the right, out through the left. As we start to circle this energy of love right through our heart, you're safe, you're protected, you're loved. Relax. Bring that loved one into your heart. Feel it. Expand it. Let it grow. Unleash it. It's unconditional, remember? It's as big as you can make it. Hold on to it. Keep expanding. Feel that in your body. Breathe in. Breathe out. Let that energy flow through you. Now, as that energy of that loved one is growing inside of your heart, I want you to delicately, carefully lift it up and place it into the heart of that loved one. Put your heart in their heart. Let them feel how you feel about them. Whatever it is you want them to feel, amplify it. Feel it. Give it away. Hold it there. Hold it there. Breathe and amplify. Feel it grow inside of them. Feel that energy expand all around them. Isn't this what you want them to feel? The feeling you feel inside is amazing. Now give it away. Hold it. Very good. Now slowly bring your awareness back to you, knowing that you left a lifetime impression on this loved one. You've amplified this love so much. They are now healing, as are you. Focus back on your breath. In through your heart, out through your heart. Start to bring your awareness back to this moment. Keep the feeling in your body. Hold the feeling of love. And when you're ready, bring your awareness back to this moment, back to the room, back to where you're sitting. Slowly start to awaken. When you're ready, slowly open your eyes and come back to this moment. And there's a beautiful angel on the screen to greet your awakening. Wow. I could feel you guys amplifying. My hands are like lit up. Look at this picture, you guys. Laura, you want to talk about it? You're muted, girl.
There we go. There we go. This is our divine union angel, and she reminds us of the unique and blessed balance that occurs in each of us when we blend the divine feminine with the divine masculine. And so much of our output throughout the day is the doing, the doing, the doing. And the divine feminine is about the feeling, the feeling, the feeling. And it's really 80% an inside job. So it's important to get that balance right. Our present society has been under masculine rule for centuries, and the pendulum is once again swinging in the other direction. We're entering a time on the planet where this love energy, this divine feminine energy is reemerging. As individual aspects of this microcosm called Earth, we too are sensing a softening within us, a heart opening, if you will, an expansion of love. So let this be a reminder of the experience. Let this imprint upon you as a reminder of that experience of you sharing that level of love with your beloved. And now you have this, and you will have this on a recording, and you'll be able to listen to it again and again and again and again.
The idea is to revisit. Remember what I said about memory? It's a rehearsal of something. And the moment you learn something new, you create between 2,000 and 2,500 synaptic connections in your brain. Just learning one thing. That experience right there we just did, you just created synaptic connections in your brain. And because we did it with eyes closed, we didn't assign visual meaning to it. We assigned the feeling that you created to it, right? And that's an imprint into the body. And what we just did, folks, is called genetic restructuring. Genetic restructuring. This is a new harmonic that the genetic code was given during that moment, during that process. And so your entire body now has a new genetic option. It's an option because you can go back and rehearse something else that's not serving you, or you can go back and rehearse this that's healing you. And so this recording is going to be something that's, I think, useful, that you can even maybe just bring the meditation together, do that together. If you, the person or the thing, the pet or the spouse or partner, the family member, whoever you brought into your heart, I invite you to bring them into that meditation and do it together. Do it together. Try it. Now that you've done that, every time that you rehearse that feeling of love for that entity, for that person, you're going to amplify them. You brought them into your heart, and then you combined your feeling of love with them and then placed it back into their heart. That's an amplification. That's a genetic restructuring of you, but because of quantum entanglement, it's also a restructuring of them. That's the power we have, folks. So I think Lori has an intention for us, right?
Yeah, that was just, I just want to say thank you. That was so beautiful. And I'm so grateful that we had that experience this afternoon and chose to share it with all of you. And, you know, another thing you can do is make sure you have that with you when you wake up in the morning. It's a great way to start your day and get you into that level of joy. And I would even add on, once you have it, you can send that energy out into the universe as well, with the intention of, let this be my attractor factor for the day. Let this be the vibrational place that I am attracting from. I think we're going to have some wonderful holidays with that in mind.
This, I call this process when we create an emotion without the visual references, without the dogma or baggage of the past. When we create this experience, I call it our fire escape plan. so that when you might be having some unserving emotional response, you can bring this moment to the present moment. Remember what I said? The body doesn't know the difference between something you make up in your mind or something that's happening in your three-dimensional world. So when something's happening in your three-dimensional world and the senses are taking in the content, what you're seeing, smelling, tasting, and feeling, you can, in that moment, place your awareness back on that heart and that feeling of love and piggyback it into a more serving experience when you're falling apart, right? I call that our fire escape plan. And it's best to have a plan prior to the fire than when the fire breaks out, right? So this is it. This is the plan. You can use anytime you wish. Love is one of the most healing frequencies there is. And when you run your Healy on the heart chakra, you amplify that signal, right? So think about that as another fun little thing to have.
Absolutely. Right? Yes. And think about this as an intention. This holiday season, all my holiday gatherings are celebratory and joy-filled. Everyone is thrilled to be together. We've all let go of the preconceived notions of how a holiday should be versus how it is in the present moment. Appreciation for the moment, appreciation for one another, just as we are. This is bar none the most love and joy-filled holiday of my life, as the gift of the present is the greatest gift of all.
Awesome intention. Thank you. Thank you so much. Thank you all for being here. I'm so excited. I am amplified. I don't know about you guys, but I am super amplified right now with this feeling. I can tell the work that I do, I can tell because I literally have an expansion in my chest. When we attach to a feeling of love, it puts a chemistry in our body that produces nitric oxide. And nitric oxide is a vasodilator. It's part of the fight or flight mechanism, but when we're doing it with love, the fight or flight mechanism, the sympathetic nervous system isn't the one in charge. It's the parasympathetic that's in charge, still with the condition of vasodilation, meaning that you're so much more in the experience. So just a fun little hack, by the way, how we can bridge this open heart or this feeling with a true big open heart.
Absolutely.
Whew. Thank you, guys.
Yes, thank you so much. I'm just looking up the date. Here it is. It's January 8th. That is our next adventure.
Next Monday Night Magic, January 8th.
Yes.
Tell all your friends.
Yes, we hope you'll join us then. And I'll get this recording out to you guys tomorrow and share it with anyone and everyone you want. We really want to reach a broader audience. We love each and every one of you. And we know that there's so many new people in Healy out there. So if you've got new people or you know new people, please feel free to get this to them and let them know, because this is so powerful. And we take Healy to an entirely different level. So we just want you guys to know how much we appreciate and love each and every one of you, and what a joy it is for Ken and I to be able to bring you these monthly epigenetic geek adventures. And hopefully we're bringing wisdom to your lives that are making them better.
100%. Thank you, guys. And so the next time we come together, it'll be next year. Well, let's welcome holidays. Let's welcome in the new year. Merry Christmas, everybody.
Happy holidays, everyone.
Thank you very much. This is so beautiful. Thank you so very much. And I wish you the dearest, happiest of holidays. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We
Thank
love you guys.
Thank you.
Aloha, Laura from Maui also. You've changed my life. I love you both. And Ken, you rock for years. Oh, now I know. And Laurie, I won all your angels. Is that yours?
Yes, all the angels I share with you guys are
Okay.
mine. I put it in
So
the chat. It's wisdom of the
I'll
angels.
find it because I won every one of them. I'm ordering them.
By the way, folks, the 3 little dots down there in where you put your chat information in, if you tap on those 3 little dots, you can save the chat if you're on your PC or your laptop, you can save the chat. If you're on your mobile device, sorry, you won't be able to do that. But by saving the chat, you'll have the links that Lori put in there. All the content from the chat will be there for you.
And I'll send it to you in an email as well. There's
Exactly.
that.
Exactly.
That was awesome. Happy holidays.
Happy
All right,
holidays,
everybody.
everyone. See you
Happy
soon.
holidays. Mwah, hugs and kisses. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.